Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we have the amazing Donna Hann, who came in to talk to Chris and I all about juggling all the things without burnout, including business and work and life and family and self-care. And she's got some really cool gold nuggets. Stick to the end because I really loved her analogy around juggling the balls and how to do it without burning out. So a little bit about Donna. She is a certified high performance coach and business educator on a mission to unleash the potential of Australian regional business owners, leaders, and their teams. With invaluable experience growing 3 successful businesses and having lived in regional Australia all her life, Donna understands the unique challenges and advantages of remote entrepreneurship. She believes that your location shouldn't limit your access to quality business education and support, which is why she's bringing it directly to you. Through high-performance concepts, business tools, and mindset strategies, Donna empowers entrepreneurs to master the messy middle of business growth, workplace culture, and mindset where you'll feel seen, supported, and celebrated without burning out. So we are lucky enough to have Donna coming into our Ending Body Burnout Method to take one of our root cause workshops in August. She will be taking our clients through her high performance mindset framework, which is called 5 to Thrive, to help you create success in all parts of your life: health, family, work, finances, all the important things that enable you to have a healthy, thriving, successful life. It's going to be really great, and you'll get a really good insight of just how smart but also intuitive and aligned Donna is. So I'm really excited to share this podcast episode with you today.
Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. We have a guest on this episode. We have Donna Hann. Hey Donna, how you going?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks
Yay.
for coming.
We're very excited. We know each other through a business group that we're in. And I was on your podcast a little while ago, or we did the recording. So it's nice to turn the tables and pull out some wisdom from your head. Because I love what you do as a business coach, but there are some business coaches out there that are like strategy, do the things, build your business. Whereas you have been able to integrate this lovely mindset side of things as well, where it's like we can still be successful and do the things that, our heart desires without burning ourselves out. So we're going to dive into
more of a holistic kind of approach, bringing in, there's still business strategy because it has to be there. But we also need to ensure that we're building our version of success, whatever that is, whilst also maintaining our relationships and our own health and well-being. So, and part of that is definitely around mindset, but, bringing in, making sure that we're building the kind of business that supports our lifestyle rather than it being the other way around, where our business becomes our lifestyle. And that's a surefire way of going down the path of burnout. So.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because I know that in the past you've had your own, like we call it body burnout, where you've been burning the candle at both ends for too long and now your body is like very much talking to you. And part of that too was integral to relationship stuff that was going on as well. Are you happy to, maybe we'll just dive straight into the personal stuff?
Yeah, of course. No worries. I am a bit of an open book, so I do not mind sharing at all. So my journey, I guess, like I've been in business for a number of years, experimented with a few different businesses over that time. But the business that I had prior to this one, so currently I support regional businesswomen to really step into their potential and to grow their business to their version of success whilst also maintaining their well-being and their relationships. And I guess what's led me to do that is my previous business was a dance studio. And it was in a regional area of Queensland, a small little town, but very quickly, in a short space of time, that business, that dance studio, grew to 300 students in 2 locations. And I had a team of 10 working for me, whilst also I had a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old and a shift working husband. So there was a lot going on, but I was really driven, and we had a lot of success in that business in that short space of time, and we were winning like national awards and local awards, not necessarily for like the dancing, because for us it was a recreational dance school. There was no competitions or exams. It was all about building up the child's confidence through dance. But, of all the success that happened, there was a lot of things going on the inside that didn't match what was happening on the outside. So, physically I was burning myself out. I was teaching lots of classes. I was, when we very first started, I was still breastfeeding, and my kids were really small. So, they really needed me for a lot of things. So whenever they were sleeping, I was working, and with a shift working husband, he would do night shift, and he'd be gone from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, coming back in the door at 7 in the morning. And obviously the opposite when he was on day shift. And then that meant that I would, be high-fiving the babysitter at the door, racing out to teach afternoon classes, and then he would come back to a babysitter and then have to put the kids to bed, and then I'd roll in and he'd already been, it was just a crazy time. And I think back and I go, how the hell did we do that? How do we even get to that point, and how do we exist in that space for the couple of years that we did before it all kind of went south? Am I allowed to swear or not? Because I can sometimes swear a little bit.
Do little bleep outs if you do. So, if it comes out.
Let me keep it clean.
I'll go like this when you say a swear word. I'll go.
So the burnout part of that, I guess we got to, I was obviously feeling tired a lot of the time, and I'd already started to restructure my business because I could see that it wasn't going to work. The whole thing was going to implode if I didn't do something about it. So, I started working with a really great business coach who was in the dance world, Clint Salter, and he was really integral in helping me to create better systems in my business and, be able to sort of work myself out of the business rather than being the one that was the cog in the machine that turned everything. So that was amazing, and that was working really well. I was starting to see the results of that. I was still bloody tired because, I've got the little ones and doing all of that, but my relationship with my husband was becoming particularly strained. So basically we had become like ships in the night, as I explained. And there was just so many nights where I found myself awake at 1 a.m. staring at the ceiling where, we've all, I think as business owners in particular, but I think also as parents in general, we get to that space where we're all the things that we haven't got done that day, the things that we still need to do, the overwhelm around running a team and having a whole bunch of families that are paying you for this service that you have said that you're going to provide, plus the guilt in but I'm not in the moment with my kids, and, my husband and I are not necessarily working together like a partnership. We're more like housemates with kids, it was just crazy. And with your head spinning and your heart thumping and all of that sort of stuff coming up, I would wake up in the morning and just feel so sick that quite often I would vomit, just with, I think, just the lack of sleep and the thoughts that were going through. Like, it was a huge time.
Yeah.
And we got to the point where I remember having this conversation with him where we just couldn't do it anymore. You know, we got to that stage where, yeah, we'd just become like housemates, and we knew that it wasn't what we wanted. I didn't want to model that for my kids, to be like, well, that's what a marriage should look like, you know. And yeah, we just weren't feeling like the love was there in the same capacity. It was different, right? It had shifted. So we decided that we would have one more Easter together, and we would then separate. And yeah, it was pretty massive. So, and you know, there was nothing going on, like there was no affairs or anything like that happening. It was just that we both looked at each other and realized that it wasn't what we wanted anymore, but we didn't quite know at that point how to get to where we wanted. And I think that's sort of the journey that happened next. Over the next 5 months, I moved out, and it also happened around COVID as well. So it was crazy. Like, the March was COVID, then April we separated. And then a few months later, my dad actually had a terminal illness diagnosis. So like, there was crazy stuff going on at that time.
Yeah.
But the beauty of, I guess, the gift that sat in with the whole COVID thing at the time was that, being a dance studio, we fell under the fitness industry. And so within a very short space of time, we had to pivot on what we were doing in that. So we took all of our classes online, which meant it was beautiful. I didn't have to show up and be the face of the business and turn up and pretend to be all good whilst my world was like in flames behind me. So that was great. And also with, you know, sharing the kids and stuff, when he had the kids in that time, I wasn't wearing the hat of mum. I wasn't wearing the hat of business owner because of COVID. And I was able just to tune in to me and what was going on for me and what I needed, what I wanted, what wasn't working, what I could do differently, all of those kinds of things. So yeah, it was a really interesting time. And I actually looked back on a few photos in preparation for our chat today to kind of like go back to that space.
Yeah, wow.
Because it was like 5 years ago. And we were all, I look at the photos of the kids, we're all in our own little version of burnout. Like, my eldest son had this enormous sty on his eye that was like the size of a marble, but it was like just under his eye, like not on his eyelash line. So like, he was just, he was like falling apart. Like, my other little boy, I look at him and like, we were just in such a state of disarray. It was crazy. But yeah, that's, I guess, my version of business burnout and breakup. And that's what makes me so passionate now about supporting women in business in particular, in wearing all the hats and juggling all the things. And yes, striving for our version of success, but maintaining our relationships and maintaining our well-being along the journey. And it's a really tricky thing to do, but it is definitely achievable. But there's a lot of self-awareness that needs to go on, and a lot of things in the toolkit that you can pull from when you find yourself dipping into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So much of what you shared, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this sounds like our story in different but similar ways. Well, Chris had a gym.
Yeah.
So he was out at the door at 4 a.m., didn't come home until 10 p.m. I'm kind of like doing my own thing at home as well. We didn't have a babysitter. I just locked my kids in the house, and I'm like, I'm just going down to the back shed, which is how I started my functional medicine practice. Met clients in the shed. And yeah, lots of burnout, lots of health issues, and then our marriage was on the brink of breakup too. Yeah. So it's actually a really common story, which is really sad.
It is. And when because I do share it quite openly, like I don't share Troy's side because that's his stuff, but I'll, like, with his permission, I share mine, you know, because it is obviously, it's our relationship. So, you know, and I'm more, you know, publicly out there, whereas he, you know, does his own thing, keeps to himself. So with respect to that, I do think it's important to share, because people don't talk about it, and yet it's such a common thing that happens. And I think the relationships that we have, the way that we show up for ourselves and the way that we show up for others, it can have us going down the path of burnout, particularly if we're in a service provider kind of situation, whether that be a business or just that you're a bit of a people pleaser and you're a giver, and, that can take from us as well. So, there's so much to unpack, right? And I know that you guys do a lot of work in getting to the root cause of things so that it doesn't repeat again. And I think part of having that beautiful space that was gifted to me because of COVID, in the way that we had to sort of, in effect, kind of close down a face-to-face interaction with our clients during that time, and also the gift of our temporary breakup, was that it gave me space to kind of unpack myself, to then try and figure out how I could put my world back together.
Yeah, so that brings me to the next question. When you use the word root cause, like, what was the deepest thing that was happening within you that led to that situation in the first place?
Yeah, and I still reflect on this a lot because I think it's still at play in some ways, and I think you've always got to just keep working on yourself in that way. I think for me, self-worth is a big thing, and I think a lot of women and men too, a lot of our things come from that. My what would you call it? Tenacity, maybe, in going after the things that I feel are important to me, like striving for that success at the detriment of my own health and, sometimes the detriment of my relationships in the past, not necessarily now, but back then, I think was around self-worth, because I'm like, well, if I can do this thing, then that kind of like, I get recognition from my clients, like the kids and the parents who were coming to the dance studio, that we're doing really well. Because there was lack of connection at home, I think this is the other part, there was avoidance. So the avoidance in the lack of connection that was happening between my husband and I pushed me even more to do better in the business, because I was getting some feedback from that side that people were happy and they were loving it, enjoying it, and we were growing, and there was all this success sitting over here. Meanwhile, my marriage wasn't so great, and, my mind was like everywhere. So I think it was, the root cause was a combination of self-worth and also avoidance. I think that kind of was for me when I think back on it.
Yeah, cool. And so then, as you started, what were the words you used? I started patching myself back up, I think you said?
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah, I kind of tried to unpack everything and then kind of put it all back together.
Yeah, like that. I can't remember the term, the Japanese vase, I think it is, that gets smashed and then there's gold glue that connects everything back together. So it's put back together again, but it's different and better.
Yes.
It's never the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So was part of this this unpacking and then restructuring of self, is that then when you changed your business journey? Like, if we kind of moved into that?
And yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, it was already kind of in motion. And I'd restructured a lot of the business. I'd paid, just put systems in place that meant that I wasn't the one doing all of the things. I was really paying attention to my numbers, tweaking things that needed to be done there, rather than just kind of crossing my fingers and hoping that what I was doing was going to work out at the end of the month or whatever. So there's a lot of that was already in motion, and it kind of was that bittersweet moment where you can already see the progress that you're making in that space, but it's almost like too little too late, because the marriage was already kind of falling apart. So I continued to work on that. And I actually ended up selling that business. And I think, I know that part of the reason for selling was definitely going through this process of unraveling and then putting myself back together. And that putting back together was like really asking myself some big, tough questions about, like, what do I actually want? Well, first of all, what are my core values? Like, what are the things that are most important to me? how do I want to show up in the world for myself, but also for the people who mean the most to me. And what do I want more of? What do I want less of? How do I want my world to look going forwards? What do I deserve? I think was a big one. Lots of big conversations with myself through my journal, I think was the best thing for me because I love journaling. I don't always feel like doing it, but when I do it, and when you look back, like when I look back through my journals, there's patterns, right? Like there's always patterns of the same thoughts coming up or the same feelings coming up or the same situations coming up. And then when you reflect back on them and you see it there, in like you can't deny that those things. So then you go, okay, if I don't like those things, I need to make a change, and the only person that can do that is me. So that's, I think, why journaling is so important for me. But yeah, just really getting clear about what those things are. Working with a counsellor was amazing. Like I had my own personal counsellor, and we had a marriage counsellor as well. And I think that then doing those practices, I did lots of like meditation and stuff. I cried, snot cried, ugly cried a lot, like a lot. And then I put a lot of courage in place to speak my needs. I think that's massive. Yeah. And then our marriage, we decided to, get back together, continue to restructure the business, sold the business, and now do things differently. There's always a lot of self-awareness that happens. Like I'm always tapping in to go, okay, how am I feeling? What am I thinking? What are the repetitive thoughts I'm having? What am I journaling about? And changing things if things need to be changed.
Yeah. I love that. It definitely sounds like living in alignment is the word that just kept coming into my head as you were describing all of that. It's like, what do I want? What am I deserving of? What do I value? How do I want my life to look like? How do I want my relationship to look like? And then creating that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned before, I think you said this is one of the reasons why I love helping women in business and regional women, because like they're juggling so much. So what are some common challenges that women in business are facing that is leading to burnout?
I think juggling all the things, like the expectation that we have in society of how we need to do all the things and do them all really, really well, just kind of sets us up to fail. So that's one thing, I think. In regional areas, and this is a bit of a generalization, but I do think it's true. I think it's at least worth mentioning, right? Is the traditional gender roles, I think, are a little bit more, sometimes more traditional in regional rural areas as to the expectation of what the woman does compared to what the man does. And yes, we've had a lot of change in that over the years, which is amazing, and still continues to be. But I think there still is that there. And that could be a challenge. The other thing is in regional areas in particular, there's typically a lot of shift working families and fly in, fly out families, because in smaller areas, obviously, there's not always a great deal of employment. So you kind of have to look outside the box for that kind of stuff. And that puts extra pressure on as well. And feeling really seen in a small community can be both a blessing and a curse. So, we all have, I think in business, in small business in general, we're doing all the things, right? We're doing the marketing and we're the CFO, the CMO, we're the COO, we're doing all of the things. But also it's nice to be able to sometimes be, to just be you without doing the business stuff. And when you're in a small community where everybody knows everybody, you feel like you've got to be that professional person all the time, which adds another layer of pressure. I mean, I know we've moved to Perth recently, and we're still in regional area, but it's a much bigger place than where we were before. Where we were before in Queensland for the last 15 years was like 8,000 people in one town. And then we had a sister town right next door, which was another 8,000. That's still pretty small. And so, I'd walk down the street and I'd know everybody, and I'd know their kids because they'd be at my dance studio as well. And I'd have my kids that they're, also at the age where, we're going through tantrums and stuff like that. You're like, oh my God, I got to try and be really professional here while my kid's like flailing around and doing
I
his
teach
thing.
children and my child's gone crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that adds a level of complexity sometimes. Sometimes to it. And, when you're that fear of failure and, trying to build this version of success in a small community where everybody sees what's going on, sometimes that can feel like a lot to hold, I think. So in particular, like if we're speaking directly about regional, rural women in business, I think those are the biggest things that come up. But often in general, people will be like, oh my God, there's so much marketing that I need to do. I think that's one of the biggest pain points for a lot of people. And just the overwhelm, managing that overwhelm and the mindset. I think we consume a lot, right? And I love learning myself. And I teach, like I have my membership and things like that. So I'm helping people to grow their business by giving them the information, the tools, the business tools. But we also have to have the mindset tools that go along with that, because we can have all of the things that we need. We can know the things that we need to do. But why do we not do the things that we know we should be doing? And I think that circles back to a lot of like body burnout, I would imagine, in the space that you guys see. Like we know what we need to do. We know we should be exercising, eating healthy, doing all the things. So why do we do the things we do when we know the things we know? We still self-sabotage. You still make the wrong choices. So I think the other challenge that may not necessarily be at the forefront of some people's minds, because maybe they haven't kind of done the work in that space before, but it's mindset. I think mindset is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree. As you were talking about that, I'm like, yep, check. I've experienced all of that as a regional businesswoman. But this year I was a finalist in the AgriFutures Regional Women's Award, which was really cool process to be in, because they're so supportive. But also I learned a lot as well. So at the awards ceremony, the woman who won is amazing, Sarah. She has a non-for-profit business called 1,000 Hearts. But in her speech, she pulled out some stats and said that mental health, I can't remember the percentage, but it was a significant amount of people in regional areas have more mental health issues than those in more urban cities, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think it would be the opposite. It's like, oh, but hang on, aren't the people in the cities like the disconnected ones and da-da-da-da? But there's a whole heap of reasons why mental health issues are more predominant in regional areas, and I think you just explained some of them. Yeah. And because I was talking to a lot of women, and in that space too, there are a lot of women in agriculture, and or they've grown up in generational farms, or they're in this space. So many of them were like, oh, not all of them, but there was definitely a gender issue happening there, like a patriarchal issue. Even one of our clients actually came to us, and her source of burnout, I mean, it came to it, like always with our clients, there's a deep root identity-based belief that's then causing the patterns and the overwhelm and then showing up in their body. But like the source of it, or what created it, was that she was the oldest child, but the farm was given to the son. Without even like a conversation or even a splitting up of, it was almost like, you're a girl, you don't matter, here you go, have this. And it led to so many patterns down the track of like trying to get external validation to prove that, no, I am good enough, like I am a woman, I am good enough. And so that, it is actually still quite insidious in the regional area, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, my husband comes from a farming background in regional Victoria. So like I can see the play out that kind of happens in the dynamic, particularly down in that area, you know, being that it is very much a, you know, regional, rural kind of space down there. Here and in Queensland where we were, it's more like in Queensland, it's more of an industrial kind of space. And then where I am now, it's interesting because we're only an hour and a bit away from Perth City. But there's a bit of a blend here of both what you were just describing, that kind of rural farming industry, and then you've got like tourism and you've got some other stuff that are happening around as well. But yeah, definitely, I think there's still, when I was at a networking event yesterday, and there's still this disconnect around like the expectations that, yeah, you can have a business, but you also have to be the primary caregiver and be the one responsible for all the after school activities and all of those kinds of things. It's like, yeah, it's just added to the plate rather than it being more equalized. And it's, you know, every family is different. And I think it's the conversations that need to be had between partners to make sure that that feels more equal, and logistically that it works. You know, different working hours and stuff sometimes just dictate the way that responsibilities land. But it needs to be a conversation. I think that happens more often to help to put an end to that kind of burnout that tends to happen from just that alone. Yeah.
Otherwise there's resentment, isn't there? Like it just festers, it just builds. We've got a rule in our relationship, our whole family actually. You have to communicate. If you hold it in, you'll get resentment, you'll get annoyed, you'll get frustrated. We've got a clear rule in our family, don't we? Like you have to, if you're not happy, if you've got something you have to say, you want to say, you got to say it. Otherwise, you bring the whole team down. Yeah. I love my favorite line is, you know, if there's an issue, but it's kind of like an individual thing. Like, well, you got to sort that out, honey.
But it also,
I love it.
we had a staff meeting the other day too, and because we are wholehearted about that in our personal family life, it also just like overflows into
everything.
Our staff meetings, even our conversations with our clients.
Yeah.
Like I could tell that a client had something to say about me.
Yeah.
In a session. She was just holding back, and I'm just like, she's like, I don't know. I don't know if I should say it. I'm like, I'm a big girl. I've done my work. It's okay. I don't care.
Yeah.
And she said it, and then she felt so relieved. And I'm like, oh, is that all?
Yeah. And, you know, that's where mindset's so big, right? Because probably what she'd conjured up in her mind was far bigger than what she actually needed to say.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So we ruminate on stuff. And, you know, I think that plays such a big part in our lives as individuals, but also as like business owners as well. So I love that you guys have that ingrained in your family culture, but also in your business culture as well with what you do. It's really important. Yeah.
The other thing that I haven't really thought about this, but I'm like, far out, I used to feel this. Not so much because I'm, you know, more secure and like I love myself and I accept myself and trust myself. But before I did any of that, what we call metaphysical work, the deeper rewiring, reprogramming, far out the like living in a small town and being seen.
Yeah.
And feeling like, oh, like I'm the practitioner. I have to make sure that, you know, when we're out at this school fair that all my kids are eating healthy, and like, no, you can't have fairy floss. And like, I really want a sausage and bread because that smells really nice. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't eat that.
Or at the airport when our clients bump into us.
Oh yeah. Like, yeah, there was an experience of went and got some Nando's chicken and chips, and
Chris is sitting there.
We even sat, and I can't remember if this was a deliberate on my part, because I'm like, if we sit far, far away from lots of people, then it's highly unlikely we'll bump into anyone that we know. Probably whether it was a conscious, it would have been an unconscious thought if it wasn't conscious. But then randomly in Melbourne, two people from our little town and just like, oh, hey, Chris and Philly.
I'm like, hey man, hey
and they're like, are you enjoying your dinner? And I'm like trying to hide that I'm, I don't do that anymore. But that is an experience that I think a lot of women would have until they can do this work where it's like, you know what, I can show up as me and I can put my hat on in any space. And if someone judges me for that because like I'm wearing Ugg boots and trackies to the supermarket instead of my suit, I don't think many women wear suits these days.
Where we are.
Where we are. But yeah, so that was an interesting point. I like that.
Yeah, but it's so true. It is so true. Yeah. So it is liberating when you shed that and let go of that 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so you are very passionate about preventing burnout, but also balancing or also holding space to like going after your goals, having ambition, achieving the things that you want to achieve. So like some tips, I guess,
tips?
of being able to also love that ambitious part of you and and wanting more for yourself or for your business or for your family without burning out.
Yeah. And it is hard, right? It is hard because I'm an ambitious person. I work with a lot of ambitious women and we should be able to be ambitious and go after what we want. Like that's part of our character. That's who we are. So you can't deny that because again, back to your point, Chris, that you mentioned before, if we deny that, we become resentful for that. So it is tricky. It is tricky to work around. I think one of the things that has really helped me personally, and I share this analogy with anyone who wants to talk about it because they always go, oh, that's such a good way of looking at it, is I kind of grab all of the different elements and I imagine that they're either a rubber ball or a glass ball. Because we always say, oh, we're juggling all these things, so let's just flow with that. So we've got these balls, they're either glass or they're rubber.
I like it.
Some of those balls, if let's say that they're a glass ball, if we drop the ball, it's either going to scratch or it's going to shatter or it's going to, dent or whatever. If it's a rubber ball, it's going to bounce, right? So in wanting to be ambitious, you've got big goals, you've got big aspirations for your business, you're also running a family, maybe you've got a property, maybe you've got your self-care, you've got all these different relationships, and we're not just a partner, we're also a sister, we're also an auntie, we're a friend, we've got all these responsibilities. So looking at it as glass balls or rubber balls and understanding the season of life or the season of business that you're currently in. And that's about really checking in with where things are at. I am a bit of a woo-woo as well as being really strategic and logically minded. So I'm always like just taking that time to connect in with myself and go, okay, where am I feeling aligned and where am I feeling really off? And sometimes I feel really aligned and other times I don't, but I'm checking in with myself all the time and also taking note of how everyone energetically is feeling around me in the family home and that kind of stuff. But as an example of how I recently used this kind of analogy to help me kind of get through a bit of a chaotic period of time. So 9 months ago, we moved from Queensland to Western Australia and the decision was very, very quick. So it came about because my husband's company, they offered him a transfer and a promotion and, all of the bells and whistles that went with it. And I grew up in Perth. So it was like a way of us to get back to be closer to my family because in Queensland, we weren't close to my husband's family because they're in Victoria. So we're sort of isolated. So, it was great, but it happened in an 8-week period. So from the time they said, yes, you've got the job, to the day that I landed here with the kids was 8 weeks. It was crazy. It was really fast. So we packed up our house. We sold our house. We, wrapped up all the stuff with the kids. We got them into a new school. It was nuts. It was really nuts. So I had to really go, okay, what can I treat as a rubber ball and what can I treat as a glass ball right now? So the family became the glass ball, my kids settling them into a new school, transitioning them away from their friends there to a new place that, you know, they didn't have any friends. Troy needed extra support in, you know, stepping into this new role. That was a step up for him. So, you know, there's always that feeling the fear and doing it anyway and all of the stuff that happens there. You know, we went into a more competitive housing market, so it was hard to find a house. We were in an Airbnb for 5 months. Like, it was really crazy. So the business became the rubber ball. And I allowed that to bounce. I let go of stuff. I stopped doing my podcast. I backed off on marketing because I couldn't serve any more clients than I already was. So there's no point in, you know, doing all my marketing. So I pulled back on all the stuff that wasn't necessary, and I allowed my business to bounce for a while. I didn't love it. I will say I didn't love it because the perfectionist in me, like the person who wants to make sure that I'm always putting my best foot forward and I'm always autographing my last piece of work with excellence. It wasn't in that space for my business at that time. I was just trying to like keep my head above water and serve the current clients that I had. But just making that adjustment in my mind to be like, it's a rubber ball, it's allowed to bounce, it's not going to break, I can recover back. Whatever happens there, I can recover from it. Is my financial, like, is my revenue going to take a hit? Absolutely. But that's okay for now. I can catch up on that later. Whereas if I drop the glass ball, if I don't make this as best of an experience for my kids as possible, if I don't support Troy in his role by taking the responsibility of the kids and trying to find a new house to buy and, you know, taking the heat of most of that, he could maybe not do so well at this new job. And then where are we, you know, on the other side of the country now with no job, you know? So that was really helpful for me. And it's been really helpful for me in the past with different things. The other thing that helps is that question around, is this going to matter in 5 years' time? You know, when you get yourself in a bit of a overwhelmed spiral of, oh my God, I haven't sent out my weekly newsletter, or I haven't done this, or I haven't done that. Is it really going to matter in 5 years' time? Probably not. You're probably not even going to remember thinking about it. So it's okay to let it go. Yeah. So that would probably be one of the biggest things that I think has really helped me.
That's a cool analogy. I love it.
I do love that.
It's really cool. Glass balls, rubber balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the juggle's real for so many people.
Yeah.
Like they've got so many things up in the air. Some of the things they're not even aware that they've got in the air. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just unconsciously juggling things for just because that's the way it's always been done in their family, in their community, in their business, whatever. Rubber balls, glass balls. I love it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is allowing yourself to change if you feel like you need to, or change something in your business. And that can be tricky, right? Like I'm currently looking at changing some things inside of my business, which makes sense, but also really kind of doesn't. So like there's part of my brain is like, yes, we're going to do this and it's going to make everything so much better. But then the other side of my brain goes, yeah, but that's the opposite thing that you've kind of been working towards for a while. So what, you know, and I've been allowing myself the space to work through that. And yeah, my human design is that I do need to ride the wave until it's a ripple before making a decision. I'm not like, if I make a fast decision, it always ends up causing some chaos or some upheaval, hence making a really quick decision to move across the country. I was also dealing with that in my human design as well. So it was a bit crazy. But yeah, like just being aware that, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. Like if your season of business or your season of life changes, if your kids, you know, going from having little babies to primary school kids to high school kids to moving out of home, like that's a whole season of life change that affects so many other things. Just as one example to use, it's okay to change things up. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. It's very timely that we talk about the balls, because before we hit record, you're like, how you going? I'm like, yeah, good. I've just got a lot of emails that I need to like create and schedule before launch and and like, even as I was talking to you before we hit record, it's like, and if I only get some done, it's okay. Whereas like past Philly though would have been like, oh no, I have to stay up. I have to like make sure this gets done. I'm going to sacrifice my going out for my walk and being in nature, and I don't know, we'll probably go buy some fast food for dinner instead so I can get this done. Whereas it's like, at the end of the day, I mean, it might affect launch, probably won't. And even if it does, it's like, cool, there's another one.
Yeah.
And I feel very the same around housework as well. And I think that a lot of people like, everything needs to be tidy and everything needs to be done this way. And it's like, really? Like, is that a glass ball? I think probably 95% of the time it's going to be a rubber ball, really.
Yeah.
And it's just tied up to self-worth. It's like, well, if I have a messy house, then I'm no good.
Yeah, and it'll all be there like the next day, you know. I think I used to work, like I said, when the kids were small especially, I'd work whenever they slept, and that included like in the middle of the night sometimes, you know. I'd be like, oh, I've just had this idea, or oh, that thing that I didn't get done, I'm just going to go and do it now at like 1 a.m. while the rest of the house is asleep. And now, like, I strictly work between school hours unless it's like really, really, if it is a glass ball thing that really has to happen. But I get to nighttime and I'm cooked. Like, there's no way that I want to be working at my desk at that time doing stuff, or on the weekends. But now it's become more of like an actual intentional shift. It's a choice. And that's, you know, just circling back to like, you can change things. It's actually more about choice. Like, we always have a choice. And sometimes I think, particularly in business, it's like, well, no, you can fall into the trap of feeling like you don't have a choice because you've, you know, got responsibilities and stuff. And yeah, we do. And maybe there might need to be change management that happens between, you know, from when you make the decision that there's going to be a change to when you actually roll it out. But remembering that we do have choice, and energetically, if we don't make the choice that we know is aligned for us, it's going to show up in other ways, whether it be resentment, whether it be through our health, whether it be through things just not falling into place the way they would have otherwise, because we've gone against the grain of what we know to be true to our authentic self or our core knowing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Amen, sister. All right. So this has been so good. If anyone has been listening, especially if she's a regional businesswoman and she's like, oh, I'd love to find out more about Donna and how she could help support me juggle all the things and create the business of my dreams without burning out, where can people find you?
My website's donnahann.com. And I'm on Instagram. You can find me at donnahann_coach. I'm on Facebook too. I have a podcast. If you're a podcast listener, you can come and catch me and Philly. We've got an episode that'll be on there soon. It's called the She's in Business podcast. And I've put a resource together to help people if, you know, mindset is something that you know you need to do more on regarding business, which we all do. It's like a never-ending, ongoing thing that I think requires our attention and is really worthwhile doing. So I've created like a little resource that kind of just steps through a few things to help around mindset if you're a business owner. So that's donnahann.com/110 if anyone wants to go and grab it. But always open to answering questions and helping people to achieve their dreams without burning out and without burning down their relationships in the process.
Love it.
So good. I'll make sure all those are in the show notes. And you are also coming into our Ending Body Burnout Method as well to talk with our clients around 5 to Thrive.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm a certified high performance coach, and part of the framework that sits under that is some like 5 different core elements that ensure that you can reach that version of success and the life that you want whilst maintaining your relationships and your self-care and your well-being. So what I'm going to talk about in that masterclass are the 5 things that you can do to thrive in that space. And it's relevant not just for business owners, but for people in general as well. They're things that you can apply to everyday life, which is why I love what I do, because it's so applicable to so many different people. And yeah.
So any clients listening, get there. Be there. It's going to
Get
be
there.
so good.
Come to the class. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so good. All right. Well, thank you so much.
So welcome. Thanks for having me on the show. It's been really fun.
Thank you, Donna. It was awesome. All right, everybody, have the best week ever, and we'll catch you on the next episode.